Afternoon, Turks and Caicos. It's a beautiful Thursday afternoon here in Providence, and of course, welcome to episode of the Patriot Hour. I know you haven't heard my voice in a while. I've been kind of on sidelines in the background, doing different things. But I want to say a beautiful, good afternoon to everybody across the TCI, no matter where you're at right about now, whether you're in Grand Turk, South Caicos, North Caicos, Tropical Vibes, 105.5, the beat of the TCI. And today, we're going to be talking about something very important. We got, so a friend of mine's or a lady that I know, said, silly season is about to begin, or has begun. I'd like to think it's already begun. And so we're going to be discussing some issues, the 5 most important issues during silly season, or they call it election. So I got 2 young, dynamic, awesome people in the studio today. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and I'll start with the beautiful young lady to my right, who is no stranger to anybody in the Turks and Caicos. Let the people know who you are.
Hi, everybody. I'm sure that this voice is familiar. I'm Ryesha Higgs. I've lived in the Turks and Caicos, was grown in the Turks and Caicos for the past 16 years. After that, I moved to New York and pursued studies in professional dance as well as biology. I'm currently an honors biology major at the Long Island University. I'm back home now for the summer. I'm working, and as well as that, I'm also hosting my own summer dance intensive for the kids of the Turks and Caicos Islands.
Awesome.
Well, I don't have a resume as long as that, but many of you may know I just graduated from British West Indies Collegiate A-level program. I'm now off to Durham University in September to study law.
Okay. Thank you, Devonte. Thank you, Ryesha. And it seems we may have a call already. We haven't even really gotten into the issues yet. So I want to ask, our operator to hold any calls for the moment. Let us get into some questions. I'm going to jump right into it. As we were talking off air, time is of the essence. Unfortunately, someone else took up some of our time. I ain't gonna call no names. I ain't say who, right? This Taylor guy. I ain't gonna mention nothing else. Anyway, guys. Now, speaking of the general elections, the upcoming general elections, it's due, or at least the announcement of an election date is due by the end of the year. I want to ask you guys, as young people, how do you feel about the upcoming general elections? What's your perception and your take on things?
Well, personally, I feel that the upcoming elections are going to be a true representation of the direction that the Turks and Caicos Islands is going to head as a developing country. I feel like the elections that are coming up this year are going to signify where we're going to head for the next 4 years, how we will grow, in which areas we will grow. And to me, the election will serve to be a defining moment in the history of our country.
Devonte, any thoughts on that?
Well, I feel like election will be the only word that comes.
Interesting in which way?
Very interesting. We already see the political landscape is changing, it's shifting. We're seeing a lot of party politics going on behind the scenes. We've seen a lot of big movers and shakers new to the political scene, and also old experienced ones. So it'd be interesting to see what the people of the Turks and Caicos Islands feel we need in our country.
So, can I ask you guys, do you think that, both of you are pretty much in the same generation, and do you feel that people of your generation, that the majority kind of feels the same way as you do? Do you think they'll see what's going on in terms of the political landscape, as Devonte said, the movers and shakers, and as Ryesha said, it's critical. We'll be setting our agenda for the next 4 years. I'd like to think every election is critical, but I think this is a once in a generation type of thing. Do you think your generation feels so?
Well, I think that are individual generation who have strong sentiments regarding the election. You know, they understand that it's going to be a significant move for our country. They understand that we're reestablishing ourselves economically and in many other different ways. And so this election will really test us as a country. But then I feel like there are also, especially within the young population of the Turks and Caicos Islands, many individuals who are actually registered to vote and going out there who will vote or are uneducated or uninformed about what is coming up, you know, what is going to happen.
Yeah, I feel like some young people are disjointed to actually what's going on. They're not connected to this upcoming election. They really don't care about it to some extent. And I was happy when they extended the time for signing up to register for elections so more young people could get involved. And I do, if you are out there, I do hope that young people out there do get involved in this election. They need to care about it, actually, because it's their future more than anyone else's.
Absolutely. As I said to my wife last night, you know, we will vote and determine a government, but it is our children who will live with the consequences.
True.
Yeah.
You know, so when we're voting, we can't look at today. It's actually tomorrow. That's important. And so, you know, with that being said, what do you guys think are the top 5 most important issues? I mean, to you as a voter, what are you concerned about, Devonte?
Well, firstly, on top of my list is crime. The crime problem has escalated, and everyone knows it. Everywhere we see it, you look on Facebook, there must be someone talking about a house break-in, or there must be someone talking about a murder or something. And in a small island like this, in Providenciales, in a small country, we must deal with it now before it starts affecting tourism and it starts affecting other areas.
If an official, they'll say, well, you know, yes, crime may have increased in certain areas, but overall crime is down. And hold on. And you know, relatively, we're still one of the safest places in the world in comparison to our neighbors. And what would you say to that?
Well, I mean, relatively, we are. It's a fact. But then, does that mean that we don't have a problem still? And I think we need to be more proactive as opposed to reactive. We see we have a small problem now. We have to deal with it before it becomes a big problem. Just the other day, a few tourists were held up at gunpoint on the beach. That can't happen because that gets on TripAdvisor and it gets on other things, and then it deters people from coming here, and then it has a knock-on effect on our tourism product.
Of course, because we live in the digital age where everything is almost instant.
Exactly.
So, I mean, go on. Crime is one. What's another issue that concerns you?
On my number 2 is immigration. And I say that because if you do look around, I think it is linked towards the crime problem. We do have a lot of illegal immigrants coming in, bringing in guns and things that may fuel the crime aspect. But I think we need an integrative immigration policy that does not discriminate against people that are coming in and doing good in our country, that are paying towards our country, helping us to grow. But we do have to be careful in who we do accept, and we do have to be careful in what we give them when they're here. And so I do think that we need a policy that, 1, does not discriminate, but 2, gives the Turks and Caicos Islanders what they deserve as Turks and Caicos Islanders in this country.
Okay. Sounds fair. You know, sounds logical.
Right.
I mean, what's number 3?
Number 3 is obviously education. Education had to be top there somewhere. I am a young person. I do want to see what our government ministers have to offer in education. 1, not only ensuring that youths and get educated up towards high school, but try to push them towards more college, university, because in the world that we live in, if you don't have a college or tertiary degree, then you don't get into jobs. There's so many people out there that do have that degree. So that 20 years ago, our parents could have jumped out of high school, go straight into business world and learn from there and work their way up. My father did it, my mother did it. But now, because we have
They're asking you to come
the
with
opportunity,
the
they're
qualifications.
asking me, exactly, that same job my father got straight out of high school, you need a degree to even get accepted into that job before you can get an experience whatsoever. So education is one. Other than that, the economy and employment. I think last election, this was top on the list. Unemployment was very high last election, but I think now we have grown the natural course, really. Sorry. The economy has grown now. I think we're more financially stable than we were 4 years ago. And I think unemployment now is still a problem, yes, but less of a problem. That's why it's lower down on my list.
Okay.
And fifth, youth empowerment.
Okay. Well, I have some thoughts on those topics, but I'll hold them until Ryesha gives me her top 5 issues in this upcoming general election from Ryesha Higgs' point of view.
Well, I think that our top 5 are very similar. My first was educational expansion. So not just touching on education as a broad picture, but looking at expanding education internally within the Turks and Caicos Islands. So no longer will we need to send our children away, but we need to establish an economy which can sufficiently educate our children without having to send them away. For example, we need more established tertiary education options for young individuals in the Turks and Caicos Islands, because to a certain extent, not every young person wants to move away from home, wants to go incredibly far to stay in a new place. If you compare it to, for example, students that live in the United States or even students that live in the United Kingdom and the Caribbean, they go to college 20 minutes away from home because they have that accessibility. And we need to establish more institutions where our young people have more options. I must commend the 2 institutions that are already existing for young people in the islands, but I think that we need a larger amount, if not, and also to develop things such as trade schools, things such as just not everyone going to want a white collar job. You know, some people are going to want to be additional things, and we need to give everybody the option to be able to decide what course of action that they want to take for their life.
I firmly agree with that. I mean, the thing I think we need to realize as a country is that everybody is important.
Yes.
We often don't think about the garbage collector or the refuge collector until our trash isn't taken out.
True.
We often don't think about, let me go use Devonte's desired profession. We often don't think about lawyers. We don't even like them until we need them.
Yeah.
So everybody is important, and I think that's where we have to come to as a country, realize that it's not just about those professions that wear a suit and tie, but every single profession, down to the person that picks up the trash on the street, is important.
And then even following on from that, establishing more tertiary education institutions for our young people will not only seek to develop us internally, but to aid, like, for example, things such as tourism. And also because of the fact that, for example, you have a large amount of international students that travel to schools within the United States in order to seek education. The being a vast tourist destination will not only attract young people to, educate themselves within our country, but it will attract individuals from outside of our country to come in, pay the tuition, pay to live here. It will expand our economy as well as establishing our young people.
Okay. So what's your next issue?
My next issue is
so that's one. That's one.
That was one.
Just clarifying that for those listening out there. That was just one.
Yeah. So my second is crime. I feel that, as Devonte said, we are making comparisons to other Caribbean islands, but we need to understand that we are significantly smaller than many of those Caribbean islands in terms of population and in terms of, relation and communication with one another. And I feel that it's not the rate of crime, which is so significant, but it is the level of crime, the crimes that are being committed within such a small community of such close-knit people. And not only the fact that these kinds of crimes are being committed, but the fact that nobody is speaking out. You understand? The fact that I can have a brother, sister, or cousin that is affected, and almost everybody knows them, but nobody knows anything in regards to it.
Okay, so let me play devil's advocate here and not defending the police, but let me take it from the point of view of the police. The police will often say, we're trying, but we can't ensure a safer Turks and Caicos Islands without the assistance of the public. There are members of the public out there that know something. Why do you think it is that people don't say what they know?
I think it's a cultural thing, actually. I think it's a cultural thing from that is grown in our history that, hey, we don't snitch. We have something going on, we know that it's going on, but I'm not going to be the person that says that it's going on. And I think, I don't know why it is. I think it's just a part of us as a culture that we need to break, really. This is the thing that the anonymity issue. Maybe if I say something and someone will find out that it was me that said something. And I don't know how we tackle that, and that's what I'm hoping to see in these upcoming elections. I'm hoping to see a proactive route to tackling crime, actually.
I agree. I think that in some instances, whereas our small population helps us, for example, I can see anybody down the street and ask them for help with something I know almost everyone. I think, for example, in regards to crime and speaking out on crime, it actually impedes our progress. Just because if I speak on something, I might feel like, I know that they might hear this, so it's going to deter me away from speaking out just because of how close-knit our communities are, and everybody knows everyone, things get out.
So I'm just saying, or rather, I'm thinking, based on what you guys' responses, aren't we then putting ourselves at risk?
Well, to some extent, we are putting ourselves at risk in that there is someone that would have committed a crime that we know about that that justice isn't being served against them, but to some extent, we didn't commit the crime. And that's what's going on in the head of our people, I believe. We didn't commit the crime. We know who committed the crime, but we won't say anything because that is our brother, sister, cousin, friend, and we care about this person.
And I feel like there's a certain detachment from this. I feel like, for example, if I know somebody that committed the crime, they're close to my family, I'm going to feel like it's not really hitting me, it's not really hitting my country until it comes and knocks on my own door. Right. So I feel like there's a public detachment away from crime. I think we kind of forget that these things are happening right outside. You understand? These things are happening so close to us. It's not like it's happening in another country. This is in our own country. But I feel that people, because somebody face on, you're detached from the feeling of fear, the feeling of knowing that there is a risk for not only you, but for your family and for your community at large.
Okay.
My next topic, number 3, was also national security and immigration control. I feel that it is crucial. It is going to be crucial, and it's a topic that needs to be publicly addressed within these next upcoming elections.
Which aspect? Or which aspect would you say you feel is most concerning to you?
Well, I feel that the most concerning aspect is the fact that we live on an island that is surrounded by water. We don't have secure borders, so we are very at risk from incoming, immigrants coming in, like Devonte said, that are bringing in things that we know nothing about, and that are, as Devonte said as well, aiding the crime rate in our country. I think another part of it is we don't necessarily know all the individuals are coming in even via plane. You understand? For example, like the U.S., we don't have fingerprint recognition. We don't have anything like that. So we are unaware of the people that are coming in and establishing themselves in our society and basically adapting new personas and becoming new people in the country because we don't have a controlled way of securing ourselves.
Okay. I mean, we again, I'm playing devil's advocate. We have the visa, we have a visa system, right? Now there are countries that are exempt from that visa requirement. You know, so we're not going to discuss those countries, but the countries that do have that visa requirement, do you think we're doing enough to scrutinize those individuals?
I think in a way we aren't doing enough to scrutinize individuals on a whole, whether they are people with the visa requirements or without them. Ray said, I really do think that fingerprinting should be something that should have been in place years ago.
Yeah.
We should really know, even with babies that are born in our hospitals, I don't think they are fingerprinted. And so if this was being done, say 20 years ago, wouldn't have such a problem now where we have young people coming out of high school, they don't have a job or whatever, or they don't want to find a job, they want to ride around all day, and then they say, hey, maybe you should break into this person's house, they know they have this, and let's take that. And that would have been one of the babies that would have been born 20 years ago, that 20 years old now, and breaking into houses, and you could have been able to pick up that fingerprint.
That's true. I think that's what makes fingerprinting so significant in our country, because they're basically, you know, like I said, establishing themselves as new individuals, and then in a way it also impedes the work of the police, because if we're not fingerprinting individuals within our own country as well as individuals who are immigrating into our country, we have absolutely no understanding of who is coming. We're really working off of profiles and the public, with the public's input, rather than having established documentation of not only individuals who are already in the system, but individuals who have possibly been escaping the system because they have no fingerprinting, they have no records.
Right. While we're on the topic, obviously, of course, I really want to talk about this crime thing, and so I think a lot of the times we blame the police and we say the police are not doing enough, the police are not doing this, but I look at it as a legislative matter. I think there are a lot of things that we need to put in place to assist the police, because I mean, a workman is only as good as his tools. And so I think we do need to assist the police. The public needs to assist the police. I think in government we need to put in place legislation such as the fingerprinting to assist the police. I also think that I don't think we have a DNA analysis lab here in the Turks and Caicos, and we've needed one for years. I think for years we've been sending all of our DNA to the Bahamas. It takes about a week or two to come back before anything can happen. These are the things that need to be put in place, because we are a growing country, we're a growing economy, and these are the things that set the basis for any growing country. We need them here.
Okay, so imagine I'm an MP, right? Or a minister, and you come to me with this issue. Or say I'm the Minister of Home Affairs, right? You come to me with this particular issue, and I say to you, yes, I understand your concern, but, you know, we have other priorities, right? You know, fingerprint labs and DNA testing and all these things are going to require significant investment, and right now that's just not where our priorities lie. What would you say as a young voter?
Well, where do your priorities
I was going to say the exact same thing. Where do your priorities lie?
So can I ask you, why aren't you asking that question?
We are now on air.
And waiting for answers. And waiting for answers.
You heard.
But
where do your priorities lie?
I think the more significant question is, why do we have to ask? I feel like ministers, government officials should already be establishing the conversation on this, because it not only affects me and Devonte, it not only affects somebody on the side of the road, but it affects them as well, their country at large. So I think that the public does not have to ask you about. That should be
Right.
something that you already care about. Like Devonte says, you have to be proactive rather than being reactive.
Right. I think me personally, I am looking for a person to this election as I am registered to vote. I'm looking for persons that are willing to not be politicians after they are elected, but be ministers of government, ministers of the people. And I mean, on both sides of the aisle, PDM, PNP, PDA, whatever it be, independent. I'm looking for someone that is willing to put aside politics, to put aside the party, who are willing to work with the people who can get things done in the country.
Okay. Right, so that was 3. We're getting there. We're getting there.
Slowly but surely.
Slowly but surely, we're getting there. So, what would be your number 4 concern?
My number 4 concern is national identity, national pride, unity. I feel that within the Turks and Caicos, we are proud of who we are, but I feel like we need to unify our people. We need to stand together one for all. I want to reiterate something Devonte said. It's not necessarily, once you become an elected official, it's not necessarily about your party or yourself as a politician. We need to have people put in place within our government system that are going to elevate us as one people, that are going to establish us as a common social construct that is working to develop our country.
But tribalism, as I like to call it, the party, the tribe, it's still basis of the political system. Now, it doesn't have to be that way, but it is. So what do you say to people that say, well, this is the way it is, so it's the way it should be?
Well, I completely understand, during an election period of time, you are going to have people that have an allegiance to their party. And I feel like...
We have a caller. Go ahead.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, caller.
Yeah, Mr. 105, Big Mouth. I just wanna brief you all up on something. I don't know if you noticed how dirty the Turks and Caicos is. I hear you all talking about health, but I'm wondering if we make the island look the way it looks. It don't look good to know that tourists come to the island and they say the place is dirty. But if you look in our neighborhood, nobody's really putting no interest in trying to do nothing. And it's been like that for years and years. So I remember when I was working for public health, on the front street especially, I could have worked with the people, and the people used to work with me. But it seems like we don't have people in places no more who are Turks Islanders who can go to these places or go to the homes and speak to the people. It's so hard to see that foreigners are doing everything in this country. And even the garbage that you see, ain't us that made it. Because if you think about it, way back in the old days, we used to take it and burn it. And even if it's at home, we dig a hole, and we had a hole, and we burned that until I don't know when. Because that was more light then, afternoons. So I don't know if you realize that or think about it for the last 8 years now. It's naturally terrible what the neighborhood look like. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you very much for your call and your concern. I know we're digressing a bit, but would you guys like to address that caller's concerns? Any thoughts on what he says? The environment. We're supposed to be a tropical paradise, so the environment is key to who we are.
Well,
how do you address that?
I completely agree with the caller, actually. I think trash is a problem, especially in Providenciales, where I live. I drive around, and if you look on beaches and stuff, there's always trash on the beach. If I walk the beach, I can take a bag, fill it with trash, and I know DEMA, they're always doing a trash cleanup. There's always a cleanup on the beach or something. They get students involved. As president of the student council back at British Indies Collegiate, we had a cleanup going on, collaborated with DEMA, and so I think within our communities, we can get together and do something about this. But I do think it should be something that the government tackles, because it's going to be a problem. I read some some reviews on TripAdvisor once, and they were talking about how much they loved going to Sapodilla Bay, but they've been coming here for years, and now they go there and there's trash, and they just had to pick it up because they remember how beautiful this place used to be, but now there's trash in places where trash wasn't a few years ago. So it is a problem, and I think it's going to be a bigger problem as our population grows, and so we do have to find a policy that can deal with it before it becomes too big of a problem.
So, Ryesha, your thoughts?
Well, I think that I also agree with the caller, and I feel like his point ties into what I was discussing previously about national pride, and also unity. I feel like national pride definitely plays a part in the way that we take care of our communities and the way we take care of our environment.
True.
I feel like many times we don't look at this place as our, as our home. We see it as, we can throw this anywhere, we can do this anywhere because this is where we live. But at the end of the day, we have to cherish our island more than tourists cherish our island.
Right.
We have to establish ourselves as the deepest lovers of our country before we allow anyone else to. And a part of that is the way that we keep our environment, and we have to keep it clean in order to see the fruits of our labor. I feel like, as Devonte said, there are already places which establish beach cleanups, but I feel like there can be so much more. There should be community service projects which aim to clean up the sides of the road, which aim to clean up beaches, and also, as Ryesha does currently, it needs to be implemented into our schools, because at the end of the day, we also have trash within our schools, like around our schools, and it's unsightly.
Quick question. Would you ban plastic bags?
I feel like it could be done, but it would be very hard to implement.
I wouldn't say a ban. I say I would discourage the use of, but I don't think it would be practical to ban plastic bags on this country. It's all we use. Even when we do shopping, I know my mother does it. After we get the plastic bags, we reuse them for something else. And so, but it is becoming a problem. I know people at DEMA would shoot me down for saying not to ban plastic bags because it's also killing turtles when they swallow it and all that. And these things, what we do need to do is understand that our actions has a knock-on effect. Okay, a plastic bag in the bush doesn't stay in that same bush forever. And so we do have to understand it has implications further than that.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you guys. I mean, I just want to state for a fact, I probably would ban plastic bags. If I couldn't get it banned, then I'd push for a tariff. Basically making you pay to get the bag.
Right.
And it's just because coming back from, and I'm going to take some, just to say my thoughts, coming back from the UK after going to school, and I went, and when I landed in Grand Turk and I started to go around and I saw different things, the trash was the first thing that got to me, and in particular, plastic bags.
Yeah.
And then I came to Provo, and up and down Leawood Highway, plastic bags. Yes, I use plastic bags. As a matter of fact, I have started, when I go to the shop now, I have started telling them, don't give me a bag. Don't give me a bag. If I'm driving in a car, don't give me a bag. I'll just put my stuff in the car. Now, if it's like a whole ton of stuff, then sure, I'll take a bag. But if it's a couple of items, I said, look, don't give me a bag because I'm trying to reduce the amount of plastics I put into the environment.
Right.
And the first time I said this to one of the cashiers, they looked at me as if I was crazy. I was like, yeah, man. I said, whatever you can do, just don't give me a bag. Now, when I go there, most of the cashiers know, don't give me a bag. So I'm just saying the environment is important to me, and I think we have to appreciate where we are.
True.
And I'll add this. One of the things I believe, and to Ryesha's point of national pride and so forth, one of the things I often hear people say is that the Turks and Caicos is a melting pot. And I'm sure some people are going to give me some flack over what I'm about to say. And my thoughts are my own. I don't believe the Turks and Caicos is a melting pot. I believe we are a mixture of people and cultures and ideals and ideas. And the thing is, a melting pot signifies different ingredients coming together to make one.
Right.
Yes.
And we haven't done that yet. We're not there. We're more of a mixture of different ingredients where one is trying to dominate the other.
True.
Rather than creating one special flavor, we're still fighting over who gets control.
Right.
You know, and I often say that's what the difference between being a mixture and a melting pot is. And we're not a melting pot. It's a false idea.
Yes.
You know, and until we as a people have that sense of who we are and that a cohesive national identity. You know, oftentimes I always say that our differences has been inbred into us through politics. That's just my personal thoughts. You know, the whole divisiveness and you know, PDM, PNP and yellow, blue and all these things. I think we have to realize that, yeah, that work for an election, but to actually live, we got to go beyond that.
True.
You know, so Ryesha, you're number 5. I think
Actually,
I think that was 4.
yes, I think that was 4. Yes. So my number 5 is national entrepreneurial growth. I feel that within the Turks and Caicos, we need to see more of our own people developing themselves and establishing themselves as entrepreneurs who are going to bring forth our country.
Okay. So, I mean, now that we've gotten your top 5, they're kind of the same,
Yeah.
right? Can I ask, why did you pick your number 1? What made you make that issue your number 1 concern?
For sure, crime number 1, because it is so interconnected. Because it has a play on every other issue. If we look at youth empowerment, crime and youth empowerment are interconnected, and I'll tell you how. We have young people in this community who just feel as if they've been let down. And so their only outlet is towards crime. They do things that is not lawful because they have the time and they have nothing to do with that time.
So this isn't an economic issue. This is a social issue.
I think on part it's a social issue.
Yeah.
On part it is a social issue, and that's how I say it's interconnected to everything. Because on part is also an economic issue, and on part is also an educational issue, and on part it's now affecting tourism, and that's why crime is my number 1, because you have to tackle the crime first.
Ryesha?
Well, I selected my number 1 as education. And that was just because, like Devonte said, with crime, I feel like education is intermingled within everything. And I feel like without educational expansion, without strong educational establishment, it undermines everything that we develop for ourselves or we try to establish going forth. I feel like when it comes to crime, a lack of education also fuels crime incredibly. You know, especially I feel like when Devonte says that young people feel like they're let down, I feel like when they come out of high school, there's no other options for them because in tertiary education there aren't as many options as they would like to have. Perhaps there might be something that they would like to pursue that's not available to them on this island, and it's going to be very difficult for them to try to get away. They may also not really want to leave their home, and therefore they are left unable to really develop themselves any further. They can't necessarily find a job which is going to provide them with enough job satisfaction to sustain them as a developing young person, as an ambitious person, and therefore you look towards, you know, things that are not going to be the best decisions for you to make, which is going to be crime. Also, I feel that education also plays a role in national identity and establishing our pride and unity as one people. It significantly aids the entrepreneurial growth of our national people. And it's also going to assess national security.
Okay. Now, we had a caller. Is that caller still on the line? Hello, caller. Go ahead. I think we may have lost that caller. You guys have said so much, and I appreciate you guys coming in and sharing your concerns. Okay, sounds like we have a call. I'll hold that. Caller, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Wilson.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm great. I'm just calling to congratulate Ryesha and Devonte and yourself on such a wonderful show today. I feel so inspired just listening to these young individuals, talking about their views on social and political issues and other things that affect the Turks and Caicos. I feel so proud, and I know that, all is not lost because our youths are well prepared, to take over the rims of the Turks and Caicos someday.
Yeah,
so congratulations, guys, and keep up the good job.
Thank
All
you.
right,
And Ryesha, you know who this is.
I know,
Bye.
Thank you very much. I just want to ask you guys, do you feel that the government is concerned about the issues? I know I'd like to believe everybody's concerned to a degree, but do you think they're taking it seriously? Oh, we have another caller. Caller, go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon to y'all panelists and to all. I just called to say that I enjoyed the conversation, and it's good to hear that those two young persons have their heads screwed on very good, and I believe they will make this country proud. However, secondly, I just called to say that I agree with Mr. Smith's first priority, and would like to say this, I believe he would make an excellent lawyer if he keep that attitude up. Without not dealing with the injustice in this country and with the criminal activities that in this country, our country going to suffer, right? And it's important for us to have people in authority who want to execute justice, right? Who are not going to turn on an eye because it's their friends, right? I don't want us to be fooled that regardless of who politician it is, if they're not going to execute true justice in this country and get promoted, this country ain't going to prosper. You can just touch the scripture. There's one time ago, King Saul, he had done something wrong with towards the tribes, right? And as a result, God caused a drought to come to that country, right, to Israel. And God really moved that drought out of that country until, right, true justice was executed. And then that's when things start to prosper. Finally, speaking about national security, right, we have a serious problem with that. And the people who we think are contributing to it greatly, it ain't. I am reminded of a conversation that I heard about certain people in this society who we looked up to. They are doing things in this country that is discrediting our very own people, that causing their people to come in and be in top position. That is not good. So we need to deal with the crimes. We need to deal with the injustice that is taking place in this country. And after we deal with that, then our country will prosper. Thanks, man. Bye.
Thank you very much, caller.
Thank you.
I think the caller does have a point, and I do agree with both of you guys. I think crime and education are two very important issues. And I posted on my Facebook page the other day and Twitter. I said, education used to be, they say tourism is the key. And I remember when you used the education. We have another caller. Caller, go ahead.
105 back again.
Go ahead.
I hit the issues just like Brother Gardner just now. But there's one more important. Listen, people have their property in this country. I would like to know what you all think about the problem that I'm going to say, all right? There's people who got property in this country. People came from abroad, and they build on people's property. Still building on people's property. And come to now, the person who owned the property, they don't have nobody to represent them. Nobody trying to take everything in their own hands in this island, because it seems like we don't have a law. But right now, if you look at certain areas in Turks and Caicos, Provo, where we had real decent houses, they're not like that no more. If you see a lightning strike one time and hit one of these houses, believe me, they all are gone because they're built out of just wood. Let's get real. What is good for us should be good for anybody. But why should we bring bad in our country? Or why should people bring bad in our country? Because if it ain't right, and if you want my property, get off. And if we can't get it done, we're going to take it in our own hands and deal with it. So the law is a problem here.
Caller?
Something concerning the law all over. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. I was going to say, don't take the law into your own hands. You know, I do understand your frustration, and I'll say this. The law is the law, and if the law says someone shouldn't build on your property, then they shouldn't build on your property. It should be clear and simple, and it should be a situation easy to rectify, and I think I understand what you're talking about because I've met numerous people with the same problem. And I to this day, I still wonder why the government is so slow to act on these issues. And you know, I won't say my personal thoughts, not on here anyway, but I understand your frustration. Secondly, I want to ask you guys, what do you think we should do about the issues of shanty towns? I mean, because I think that's one of the things that he was mentioning, the fact that we have so many little shanty towns popping up.
Well, for me personally, I also would like to tie that back to the issue of national security. Just because we have individuals that are coming into our country that may not be coming in by conventional means, and therefore they are left to, you know, to basically fend for their own. They have to find themselves a home. They have to find themselves a community to fit in. And now we're finding ourselves within the Turks and Caicos Islands with numerous shanty communities, which are thriving and basically developing themselves as real communities. Real communities within our country. I feel like the main way that we have to tackle this is by execution and enforcement. If we don't acknowledge that there is a problem and we don't begin a rhetoric about this issue, especially concerning immigration and the existence of shanty towns, we are not going to set ourselves up to deal with them, to enforce the law, to ensure that we not only have individuals coming in to our country that have to live in this way, but that we also prevent them from living in this way once they, if at all, they enter into our country.
Okay, Devonte?
True. Well, with existing shanty towns, I'm not going to touch on that. Actually, I think that's going to have to be a legal matter that the government has to deal with. But I think we do have to tackle the root of the problem. For every problem, there is a root, and we have to ask that question.
Cause and effect.
We have to ask ourselves the question: then why are they there? And just as Ryesha said, there are people that are coming into our country illegally, sneaking through our borders, and then these are human beings, and so they have to then live, and so this is why they use whatever they can, and they build these homes because they have to live somewhere, and so we do need to stop at the root and stop the problem before it becomes a shutdown, because at that point now we get into human rights issues, and we get into issues that we have people here, we cannot treat them as if they're people because they are human. And they are here. What do we do with their shanty towns or their homes? And that's where it becomes a legal issue. That's why we need to sit at the source before it becomes a legal issue.